What is happening?
Talking way too loud for my mic.
What's happening? Let's see if I get in. Up a little bit.
To me.
Counterpoint. To me.
Now, we were gone last week. Your fault.
My fault.
You wanted to hang out with your niece.
Who I love very much. She is beautiful and wonderful. And I love content more than almost anything in the entire world.
Except for human beings that are very close to you.
Except it's just this one. Everybody else can get.
What about your own daughter?
Rightly, I see them a bunch. Everybody else can get rightly fucked. But my baby niece, well,
she is also in that like tiny stage that goes by very fast.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of more importance, if you will.
It was one of my favorite stages. She's 3. One of my favorite stages with my kids. Being able to talk and string together some sentences with some logic, but still very much the kid
Just
logic.
Full of absolute kid stupidity.
Yeah, it's not coming from books or school or anything. It's just like forming things together, and it's just the funniest.
I sympathize with that because, as you know, I'm trying to learn French and trying to get thoughts out with a very limited vocab is pretty funny.
Yeah.
I met up with an old high school friend the other day, and I was telling him how the one difficult thing about raising a dog versus a child, almost all things about raising a child are harder than raising a dog, but the one that's most frustrating to me is I'll never be able to reason with this thing. As your kid grows up, you get to be able to start reasoning and being like, this is why we're not doing this thing, and this is why we can't do this thing. When this one wants to go to the dog park, I can't go, we're going to go. Give me 10 minutes, give me an hour. Like, if you're good for the next hour, we'll stay at the dog park longer.
Or lie to the dog. Actually, the dog park is closed today.
Oh, man, what was the line in Only Murders? Oh, all of New York is out of popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't have had popcorn with Mom because Mom told me all the popcorn was out of New York.
I was thinking of I think you should leave sketch with Odenkirk, where the premise is...
I have all the cars.
And the how it starts is Tim Robinson needing somebody to help with the lie to his child at the ice cream. All the ice cream makers are down or something.
All the ice cream's melted.
Yeah.
Do you think that was originated from when all those McDonald's ice cream machines were having problems?
I don't know. I read something that those are all very tightly scripted. They don't let anybody improv, even though it seems improv-y, except with the exception of that sketch with Odenkirk.
And I think that's very much him and his buddy who writes the show with him. Their style is we write the words, you say the words, they are dumb for the reasons that they are dumb. Right. That is what makes our sketches so good. And I think that's what's kind of amazing about it is it definitely comes off as improv. Not that's like the styles that they do things, but what makes them so funny, I think, is that they're definitely not improv. Okay, Season 1, Episode 2, lowercase I, uppercase T, :
Welcome to Derry.
Yeah, I'm going to stop spelling. I'm not going to get into that. Yes, welcome to Derry, but it is a
Derry.
W that is apostrophe, or a capitalized W and a capitalized D.
Well, if you say so.
Hot start. 2 things I loved about the start of this ep.
Mm-hmm.
1, we have an intro now.
Yes, we had a full intro. Yes,
Not
we
a
had
cold
music
opening,
and
a full intro. And
yes.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I liked it. It was nice.
Very reminiscent of the 1950s and also just off kilter just a little bit, which I think is the common theme of the like when we like to show the 1950s in films is there's always something kind of sinister underneath all of it. There's like something not shiny about, or there's something underneath the shiny. There's a rusted underbelly.
Yeah.
But obviously this one is more to do with that there's a literal underbelly ran by a murderous clown.
In a cosmic fight against a turtle. Yes. Correct.
And then the other thing I loved about this episode that made you and me look right at each other was the wake up from a nightmare scene.
Yes, we think we start exactly where we left off. Maybe even we start with a little bit of episode overlap to the end of one. But it turns out it's just our character here reliving 2 months later, still having nightmares about an event which apparently did, in fact, very much take place.
Kids got murdered.
Which is good. Good.
It is. I am. But
I did audibly groan when the kid woke up, and it took me a while to reorient that was.
I went 50-50 on it when I'm hoping she's having a nightmare, which it turned out she was having a relived nightmare, not a.
Yeah, she was having a nightmare, but it was still a actual event.
I was going to be pretty sad if they chickened out and cowered it out and the kids were still alive, because that was my. Not obviously the kids. Yeah, no, the kids dying was my favorite part about the first episode.
Yeah.
I want this. So far it has come true, and our creature has not showed any sort of fear of anything. It's in charge. It's running things right now, and the parents don't believe anything. Now we've got a little bit of this dichotomy that's going on because we have our character Lily.
Notes again.
Yep. I just have to remember their names. I just like to remember their names and say their names correctly because I've watched a couple of the episodes of previous podcasts and I have said the wrong name repeatedly about the right character.
If you have a pod about a show, you should probably know the characters' names. That's probably a good
it's a
rule of thumb.
So Lily and Ronnie were at the movie theater, but Ronnie did not witness any of it. So we know that there's this massacre that happened. We know that Ronnie helped them get into the movie theater. We know that something horrible happened. And I believe what Lily ends up telling the police officers is that she doesn't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's leading to some issues. There's a ton of pressure by the public to arrest Ronnie's dad because he obviously is the projectionist and would have had access to that. He also happens to be an African-American male in a 1950s town.
That's drawing a lot of it, isn't it, in the story? The implication is that they're targeting this guy because he's black.
And he was also a person of interest in the other kid who went missing because it also happened he was last seen in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's black.
Right.
Lily's story's not super convincing. Ronnie and Lily kind of have an argument because Ronnie's very afraid that her dad is going to get arrested, and Lily is afraid that she will get sent back to the loony bin. Mm-hmm. So Lily was not telling what she saw, though she did tell Ronnie. Ronnie doesn't know what to believe. And this all comes to a culmination when the sheriff, under a ton of pressure from the town, basically coerces Lily into a confession, which is reminiscent of, I think, a lot of police interrogations.
Yeah.
Have you watched The Perfect Neighbor yet?
The Perfect Neighbor? No, I have not.
Check it out. It's really good. It's all shot, or 99% of it is shot from the perspective of body cameras of an incident that happened in a neighborhood. And I think the lady who this all happens to is definitely guilty, but it was interesting to see her talk to the police on several occasions without ever asking for a lawyer.
Always ask for a lawyer.
I don't think she'd be in jail right now if she had immediately asked for a lawyer.
Yeah, always.
But I do think she deserves to be in jail.
Always ask for a lawyer.
Anyways, it's interesting to see interrogations happen because they can be a little terrifying, especially when you find out how they go for some people who aren't guilty.
When this interrogation, the question was like something like, "Did you see him take the kid?" "No, I can't. I don't. What are you talking about?" And then let me change tactics. Are you sure he didn't do it?
Yes, that's kind of what it turned into.
Which is impossible to prove, and you can't provide a rational answer to this question because, as a wise man once said, it's a trap.
he applies some pressure to make her think that she's probably going to have to go back to the loony bin.
Correct.
And this plays well, and she's a child, and he's not, and it's kind of an awful all-around situation. And we don't see it, but obviously she confesses because they go and they arrest Ronnie's dad. Ronnie takes off, gets all up in Lily's grill out front of her house, asking her what she said. And that doesn't really get addressed until later in the episode. Because then we get 2 It appearances. The first being Ronnie. And why don't you walk us through that scene?
Now, this is the one where she's in
her bedroom. This is before her father has been arrested.
Yeah, this one was a pretty scary one. It seems like she's underwater, she's drowning, she's stretching against something, and eventually it ends up that she is in her dream being born out of what is just the world's least erogenous vagina, which does continue to...
It wasn't a vagina.
Right, she just tore through the...
C-section.
The belly, excuse me.
I believe it is all a tie-in to a C-section death.
And then she's getting... the umbilical cord comes out, and she's getting pulled back towards this big snapping...
Which we're led to believe is her mother. Mm-hmm. Or an image of her mother, who's also blaming her for her death and saying she's going to be the reason for her father's death.
So the implication that she died childbearing, leaving...
I think that's a good assumption.
The dad and this poor child motherless, unfortunately. Very scary scene.
She's getting dragged in by the umbilical cord, and it was like chomping at it, which was funny because the teeth weren't cutting the umbilical cord.
I did kind of bump on that a little bit.
But when I was watching very carefully, because after a couple chomps, it's like, why is this not breaking the umbilical cord? The teeth had a shape to them that went around the umbilical cord.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So this monster is designed to work in that space, within the confines of physics. Of course, now Ronnie at one point uses her teeth to rip the umbilical cord.
And that's how she gets away by waking up. But yes, that's how she gets away from it.
I think she gets away by her father coming in the door and waking her up. But yes. But she does not wake up in the bed. So it's not like she was having a nightmare in her bed. She started in her bed, had this whole thing. There's obviously some...
Correct. Yeah.
Realness to all of it. At this point, Lily says her thing. Her daddy gets taken away. Veronica's terrified that her daddy's going to get fried, which I believe is the phrase that it uses over and over again during her nightmare. And we see Lily go grocery shopping.
Oh yeah, this was a good one.
This was the other It appearance
too. She gets she has a guy sort of stalking her. She's going through the aisles, and there's this weird looking guy every time she turns back around, which might have been almost the creepiest.
I think I would agree.
And she keeps kind of going in circles as she's going through these different aisles, all the way to being closed off. She's now surrounded by shelves, and on those shelves are pickle jars, but it's not pickles in the jar all the time. It's
a couple pieces of her father.
The first close up is the head. Uh-huh. And then they start rattling and crashing, and then all of a sudden she's in her waking nightmare, slipping and sliding on all of this broken glass from the pickle jars and pickle juices and entrails and guck.
I don't remember. Did he start to recompile himself? Because he was like asking for a kiss, right? I don't remember if he had started to like recompile himself. And right before that had happened, now... Did she get locked in that area and then the pickle jar showed up? Because there was the whole scene where she started seeing the kids that had all died on the cereal boxes. Did she run away from that, or was it locked in? She saw that, and then when she kind of turned around, freaked out, it became the pickle jars. I guess it's not that important. I was just trying to remember the sequence of there. But there was she was seeing the kids, and the kids, of course, were blaming her for what happened. And then a father part showed up. He blamed her as well because that's what it seems to do. Is he definitely feeds on what you fear, and most of the fear for these kids is that they're blamed for tragic things that have happened to their parents.
In this case, she wakes up with just, I believe, a single jar of broken pickles.
One jar is broken,
which was kind of a
which
funny.
she's screaming at.
Yeah, and the store owner is kind of wondering. They've got a previous relationship. Sounds like she can buy on credit, and she's been in there before to pick up groceries. They've got a rapport, and he's leaning over, going, "What in the hell is happening here?"
It does that look that Noah Hawley does this shot a lot in Legion, where you're small and down, and he uses a semi fisheye or a wide angle lens, and so like everything is looking at you, and it kind of makes you the subject, and and they're all giving you the face like you're the crazy person, because in this scenario she kind of is the crazy person.
Oh, big time.
At least that's what's going on here. Once that finished playing out, she obviously ends up where she didn't want to go in the first place, which is getting dropped off at the loony bin. And the look that the people picking her up gave her was probably more terrifying than anything, which makes me believe that they're kind of being used by it, is my assumption there. That, or they're just awful, horrible people, which is also possible.
I was assuming the first, that it kind of gets in there.
I
their
assume
faces
that,
or in her mind, more likely to present that.
Yeah, I think it's that, or I mean, it's because we know that he'll use some people, and he incites violence, and I think that would be a good place to do it, because there's a little bit of evil in general, and just that the whole circumstance. That is the main piece of the show. The other things that happen, we got the new kid. Who I don't have his name written down yet.
An incomplete sheet.
It's Hank's son, or no, Leroy Hanlon. They have that new kid. I want to say his name is Teddy, but that can't be right.
Yeah, he's the little boy who likes telescopes.
Yeah, he likes telescopes. He shows up. His mom obviously gave his dad the hint to buy this telescope.
Very smart little kid, loves his science.
That kid is our purity of this whole story, I think. He's like the non-bad guy. He's not making a lot of friends. He's got an awful teacher who seems to have it out for him for no reason. He loves science, though.
Loves science. Gets blasted with a stinky fart bomb, unfortunately.
Which he says, I might smell. He says, I might smell, but I'm covered in stardust. Because it's the same stuff that's on Jupiter and Venus, I think he says, which is just such a I
mean, Jupiter's not a star, but...
Yeah, that's fair. The pieces of that are interesting is obviously there's something weird going on between his parents. I think he might be in the It universe, might be our character with the Shine. Like, they talk about the Shine in general and all of the Stephen King universe. It's what any sort of mental powers, from all the way from Firestarter to Carrie to the Gunslinger, to anyone who has something kind of interesting going on. And obviously we have our character from The Shining, who's actually in this, who is Leroy? No.
Dick Halloran?
Dick Halloran.
Yeah.
Who will later start a bar in Derry that gets burnt down. And that's part of just like the It universe.
But currently...
And that's before he leaves. Right now
he's working for the military.
He's working for the military.
The military is looking for stuff related presumably to it so they can weaponize it. And Dick is using his Shine powers to figure out where to dig.
Now we find out that this whole assault on Leroy was a setup. which we kind of knew from the get-go. It definitely played out that way. It was a very weird piece altogether. I think what bothered me the most about this scene, like he has that scene with the gun with the guy, which is like kind of a cool scene, but at the same time, I think they're just trying to drill it into your brain that he doesn't have fear. That's his superpower, right? But it kind of it just cheapens the episode. It's just not necessary, because they're just doing this huge setup that's like, look how clever I am to find out this thing, and I just don't think any of it's necessary. We all knew that it was like a setup. But it leads to him talking with the general, and the general opens it up and says, okay, I'm going to show you something.
It's the weakest.
You're who we've been looking for. It is the weakest storyline by far.
Part of the episode for me, because last week the logistics of it didn't make sense. So we're already ahead of the idea of this is just sort of baffling. And now they're explaining it in another way that I'm bumping on. The guy who is supposedly the one who did it is in jail, and he's not going to come out of jail, and he's...
Yeah, why did he take the fall?
Why does he... If it's a setup, then why don't we just say, oh, hey, almost got you there, or something, and then they go back to doing their regular... Like, it left me with more questions about the writing than questions about the story.
There's a couple pieces of that are interesting to me. Like, one, why did that guy take the fall? Because it's clear that some pressure was put on him because he didn't want to lie. Was it just that he wanted people to think he did it, which makes no sense at all?
Makes no sense.
And then the other thing was, we're supposed to believe, or I believe we're supposed to assume that Dick Halloran was involved, because when they're sitting at this bar that they kind of get racially kicked out of at one point, they ask him that they're like, because the other guys they were basically discussing that they were doing this secret mission or had been offered the opportunity to do this thing, and the two of them had turned it down. They're like, no way, that's like trouble. I think he was involved in that, and I think he may have been one of them that threw a couple extra punches in there. Because they do say that it was a little bit heavier than it was supposed to be when he's having his conversation with in the office with the general. But I just don't really care about it. Like, to make a long story short, Dick Halloran obviously has the shine, and it's his power that allows them to find these totems. These totems are set up around this thing that's supposed to allow them to find this weapon that they're searching for, which we're led to assume is it. It's a thing that creates fear, and they think they'll be able to use it in their eternal struggle with the Russia, which is such a funny thing to see now, because when we look back at like when we grew up and our opinion of Russia and all of the media that's around that, it's so funny to see this 50s fear of Russia and not have the same perspective of it now that we used to, especially with like our current like government stance on what Russia is. Like, it's just a little weird. It doesn't have the same impact, I think, as that it used to. But that's obviously where Stephen King's like basis of writing a bunch of this stuff is coming from. And so,
and we've grown up with Russia as like the biggest of big bads outside of Nazi Germany.
But that's what I think is so interesting is like our millennial generation absolutely understands that. But I think the generation coming right after us, like even I would say your sister-in-law is like doesn't get that same bit of it. Like, we're obviously aren't of the same generation like Stephen King, who's writing from a place of like ducking under his desk, but we are absolutely in like a remembrance of that. Like, we're, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. Like that's our generation. So it's interesting.
Which wall was that?
That's Germany.
Germany.
But obviously all a piece of the same. You know what I'm saying? God damn it. It's all the same era. That's our axis of evil.
With that as a summation, we're still doing a little bit of Mad Libs-y type of stuff with it in terms of the kid storyline. The kid storyline is very much the same as the storyline in the movie, and I don't say that as a as an insult or anything like that.
No.
I'm happy to have another version of that with different scares and fill out the lore, etc. This stuff with the soldiers is net new.
Well, I think that's what's so... They're trying to make it like they're trying to put their own spin on something.
But they've spent the least amount of time, in my mind, writing this part of it.
I think that's a total fair criticism. But I think that's because it's a weak idea. It's not like they may have spent more time writing it. It just doesn't come naturally. Do you know what I mean? Like they probably spent more time writing this and working out this idea than they did the other stuff, because other than the like details of the scare, that stuff all comes, I think, naturally to a horror writer. Like that's the easy part. Like not easy, but like that's the fun, interesting, I'm into this writing stuff. And then this other storyline, they're like, we have to do this because we can't just do it revamped. And so they're like, we have to do this
larger
like
something.
And I don't know. It's weird to me for a lot of reasons. One of them is just like, we're led to believe that the government doesn't really know what's going on in Derry. But there's all of a sudden this like a project that's like led out of Derry.
And weren't you saying last week that that idea is antithetical to the core concept of the kids in it being the only people who understand what's going on, and the adults are
yes. They're supposed to be and like they hit, and which is what's so weird is they hit on it on this episode, because we've got the kid's mom, his wife, who just shows up with the kid from their long road trip. I assume using the green book to get where they're going.
Sure. Yeah.
And she goes out on town and she's like visiting the butcher. They have a little bit of racial tension, but the butcher's very much giving the like clear, like, no, I just know everybody here. This is the most American town in the world.
I want to get back to that in a minute. Yeah.
But then this kid gets assaulted outside and she's like, this is weird. This shouldn't be happening. And everybody else is like, boys will be boys, which is like, that is the theme of it, is that the parents don't understand the struggle of the kids. The parents can't, everything is written off. Like they write off tragedy almost instantly. And that's like some of the magic that is what's going on under Derry. And that's but that's also like a metaphor for like kids trying to tell parents that what's happening to them is the worst thing in the world. But because they're adults now, they're like, you've got 50 years to worry about that. It's like it's writing off puberty is what like the concept of it always is.
That core theme has to live side by side with the idea that
parents know more than what they think or what they say they know.
Right. And this has to live alongside a plot line where the American military fully understands there's something going on here, knows where to dig, who to bring on board, even if they don't have their big beefy hands all the way around it. Right. They've got enough that they're on a mission, and they've got which they know the people that they need to recruit, etc., and to go find this thing. And this is a prequel.
Yeah,
we know nothing comes of this.
Yes, which I'm slightly willing to write it off just because Dick Halloran is involved, and so like obviously he is the connection, which is that he has this ability to look past it, right? He has the shine. But what military leader outside of Derry or inside of Derry is going to write off on this crazy freaking theory that this isn't... It doesn't like all click. Like, yes, I know we've done weird things. They're staring at goats and all sorts of weird things that the government is willing to invest in. But this very much seems like a well-run plan, all surrounding around this thing, and everybody believes Dick Halloran so much. Like, obviously, there's people that think he's wasting money, but like this general is like, I'm with it. Like, I'm into it. And then I could somewhat believe that. That our new Hanlon character, I assume the grandfather of Mike Hanlon, believes him because he doesn't have fear. And so there's a part of his brain that's literally missing, which I guess his version of the shine is that he doesn't experience fear. And then he immediately believes this thing. But it does not link up, and we'll see how it goes, and maybe they'll prove me wrong. Immediately I was proven wrong on the first step because I, as excited about the show as I've been, I definitely had some reservations onto if this was just going to be like a retread of it, and I think it's so far proven me wrong, and that it's been absolutely just it on a rampage, which I'm totally okay with.
It's retready, but it's a nice retread, like Episode 7 of Star Wars, which was a rewrite, but that was a romp and a half. We had fun with that.
But but like the retread has so far has been done in a way that the kids are under no control. Mm-hmm. Whereas the film, right, the kids fight back, and that I think we're going to get some of that obviously in the episodes, but I want them, like, so far they've fought back in a way that they're powerless, right? Like it's throwing sticks at, a bear. And that I appreciate, and that I'm into. And my assumption is that the army is just going to it's going to end horribly for them. But it still doesn't make sense. I don't know how this is going to end with because there's got to be some sort of resolution to this. But at some point, Dick still sticks around in Derry.
It has always been a very insular story as well from a location perspective. You forget, even the kids start to forget everything that happened as soon as they move away. Yep. So how do we get information about this thing outside to some other governmental office in the town next door up to the Pentagon? I mean, that's another area where it just doesn't make sense to the story that Stephen King originally put pen to paper, I thought. Can we talk about racism?
Yes, real fast before we get to that, because we always talk about racism last. That's how we finish our pod. We always finish. We always close on racism
in our bylaws. I forgot.
Got to close on racism. I think the testament of this show and this storyline is them trying to bring as much of the Stephen King universe into the story of it. And I think for the most part, as much as it has these ties to it through the tower and through the turtle, it's the most enclosed story, of all of Stephen King's stories, not all of them, of one of the more famous ones. It does not require the entire universe to make sense. You don't have to know that he's part of, he's a being from another place. You don't have to know that he's from another universe. You don't have to know that there's this internal struggle that's going on between him and these other creatures that are higher and above for this story to still be good and amazing and still be this allegory for what it is. And so I think that's what's so off-putting about them throwing all this other stuff into it, is that they're really trying to push that part of it to almost give them a justification for doing this television show.
Yeah.
Okay. Racism.
Where do you come down on it?
I'm bad. I think it's bad.
I also think it's bad.
Glad we've covered that.
in this show, we've alluded to it a little bit. It's a very heavy theme, especially for the black characters on there. All of the micro and macro aggressions that they face. Yes. I think you can kind of see that idea as being mirrored in the way the kids are bullied as well.
Sure.
And that's been very great. It's really amped up the tension, I think, especially just the idea of, for the most part, our black characters are our protagonists. So you can really feel the tension, especially from 1950s America in the way they're doing the camera work and what people are saying to our protagonists.
There is a ridiculous amount of tribalism that is happening within the town, and if you find yourself caught on the outside of it, you can tell like everyone in the town, everyone is living in fear of being caught on the wrong side of the it crowd.
Yes.
And I mean that not as it, the character, but the in. Like if you are on the outside of the inside, you've lost all your standing. Yes.
And how much more is that highlighted with the difference in race between these two groups of people? But I've enjoyed that aspect of it, but it is also part of why the storyline for the army thing is just not working. Because is it our major or our colonel? What's his rank?
I think he's Major Hanlon.
Major Hanlon. He immediately experienced Captain Hanlon immediately experiences racism by this guy that won't salute him.
Yep.
So it's an immediate confrontation there, and then his boss has to come in and yell at the guy who won't salute him and blah blah blah. Then he comes and gets beat up by white people.
No, we know there's at least, we're led to believe at least one of them, if not all of them, were supposed to be black.
I thought we saw some white skin. I thought
that's very possible. All I know is that there's no confirmation on this, and we don't know who the three people are, but I'm led to believe that and this is from that conversation they have in the bar, is that all three of those African-American individuals were asked to be part of this. And it's pretty clear that our shining guy was involved. That Dick was involved, because he kind of gives them the, like, I was doing a secret mission thing. It could have been that he was just off running his tower, his wooden tower that he sits in. But the way he does it, it makes me believe he was one of the people that helped assault him. But yes,
going back to
there was a white guy in charge of all of it, though. Like
going back to the encounter in the jail where he does the gun play and figures out that it's not him. It's still very much presented as a motivator for the white guy who may or may not have been involved, but is taking the fall for it. And I just found the whole thing a little bit odd that it was a false flag operation, basically. We want to highlight the racism that's happening in the military and allude to it with this beating, but then it turns out that it was these other people all along for completely different reasons, but the guy in the jail still won't admit to that. So we still want to enforce these themes of racism, but without any of the coherence to the story.
Yeah, I think they got I think the writers got a little lost in that, and not in that they're trying to like tell the story of racism, but they got a little lost in that piece of the story, because I don't think that attack was supposed to be racially motivated. I don't think that attack, like, for several reasons. Like, one, they kind of try and write it off as that at the end there. They're like...
Well, they keep inserting that into of this guy's experiences with it, and it doesn't... I liked it much better, his wife going to the store and experiencing the microaggression from the butcher guy.
Yeah.
That stuff...
Do you even think that was a microaggression?
I do. I don't think...
I think him saying that she was an outsider wasn't a microaggression, but I think the way he scoffed at her reaction to the kids was getting into the aggression territory.
I read it as he's just never interacted with a black person before and doesn't know how to do it, and it makes him uncomfortable to do that, basically.
And I guess what I would say what gets into the microaggression is like he was relying on her to assuage him from his commenting.
He's going into the interaction with this trepidation, like, boy, isn't this weird? I'm okay with it, but and the implication being my friends might not be. I didn't used to be.
Fair.
There's this dark cloud over it, even though he is acting nice to her.
I guess what's the most interesting piece to the like racism story that I saw, and again, 100% from a perspective of a white person, was the difference in how she reacts to people and her husband reacts to people. Now, granted, her husband now is somewhat brain damaged and has no fear. But you notice that they have this conversation over dinner. Specifically, he's kind of upset with how she reacts towards things and is an antagonist towards things, which obviously defensible behavior because these things are happening, right? Especially in the 50s and 60s. But he's very much on the other side of things where he's like, I don't find it makes progress to be antagonistic about things. I don't think it's the right take, but it has there is some wisdom to it when he talks about how he reacted to, like, he doesn't want this guy to get punished too hard because he's like, I don't think anything like good will come out of that, if that makes sense. And so I think that is a very interesting conversation that I would love to listen to and not have an opinion on.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I would love to. That's an interesting push and pull.
Yes.
That they could carry on through the rest of the season. But just the inserting it into the storyline that doesn't follow narrative sense, I just keep bumping on every aspect of it. So I'm hoping for this ep. I'm hoping they really tie this one together. It's a
bumpy story period, I think.
Or just leave us with the kids.
Yeah, I mean, the kids is like, it's the purest form of what the story is, and so I understand why it is so easy to write, and it's so easy to follow along. And maybe it wasn't easy to write. I didn't write it, but I'm just making that assumption that that's much more easy to write because it is kind of a retread. But I also think they are handling it differently. The stories of these kids are obviously different than the stories of the kids that happened later in the 80s. They obviously are living a completely different life. I mean, I guess I don't really talk. There's some interesting tribalism going on with the kids and the inside groups there, but I don't know if I care about that storyline that much either. Like, what is the whole the patty cake storyline have? Because it seems that they keep pushing us back to it. It's always in the middle of the episode, but there's clearly this other character that's Shelley's favorite, like Shelley's old friend. Sorry, Lily's old friend is why I have the list. Who keeps trying to bring her back in. I have a feeling what the storyline is that Lily was a very influential member of the Patty Cakes, and that she was her friend and finds herself on the outskirts of the Patty Cakes now that Lily is no longer there and doesn't really care about it anymore, and she keeps trying to like bring her back into this thing. But I that's the storyline to me that I keep going like, oh yeah, this is why is this the part of the story? But I guess I'm never bored during those portions of the school.
Maybe that'll be important later, but
of our heroes left, Lily, Veronica, and our new heroes, Space Boy, Mr. Hanlon, and his new bandmate friend, who's obviously in love with one of the Patties, which I assume is Lily's old friend. Who lives of those?
Oh, Space Boy lives.
I assume
he would be my number one
I
pick
assume
there.
that he is Mike's dad. That makes the most age-wise sense, right?
That's my assumption, yes.
And that whole family is all supposed to have some sort of shine. I'm trying to think of what's the word and they use it in like Star Wars all the time, where they have some like, they don't necessarily have the Force, but they're like
Force adjacent.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the term.
But we already broke a rule. We didn't end on racism,
which is bad.
Racism, as we've come to discover,
is bad.
Bad.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Stay gold.
Stay gold, Predator.